Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this conversation that I'm having with Sarah Davisworth, a partner at Forbes, who became the first partner at Forbes through the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives routes and qualifications. So I'm very, very pleased to have Sarah here, virtually, with me for a conversation about the subject that we're calling "So You Want to Be a Partner." Regular visitors to the Foyle website will know that this is the third in a series of discussions around the various different ways in which lawyers can become partners in a legal practice. And I think Sarah will have a different version to the other two, so well worth listening. So I'm going to just cover a few questions I'm going to put to Sarah, and our contact details will be available at the end of this. So if there's something that you would have liked me to have asked that I didn't, you can ask Sarah directly. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to answer it. So let's kick off. How did you get into insurance law in the first place?
I think, like most people, it's probably a common answer, but by accident. I don't think that there were that many of my friends at school that said they wanted to get into insurance. I studied history and philosophy at university. So not traditionally vocational subjects. Primarily, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to go to university, and I wasn't ready to start a career yet. Graduated, wanted to go travelling, so I spent a year working for the DWP in an admin role. Saved up as much money as I could. Worked hard that year, and then took myself off to Australia for a year.
Fabulous.
On a working holiday. Ended up staying in Sydney for 9 months. I didn't do so much travelling as living in Sydney. Again, worked while I was out there, made a bit of money so I could live. And to cut a long story short, day 366, when my visa ran out, I had to come back home. Didn't find myself a nice Australian man. So had no choice but to return home. Found myself back at home with my parents and needed a job quickly. Still didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I went for a job interview here at Forbes 20 years ago this month, actually.
Wow.
Quite poetically. And it was for the job of a junior secretary. It might even be trainee junior secretary. I don't think it was even the dizzy heights of junior secretary within their insurance department. And I got the job, and I was doing secretarial jobs. And a lot of that was obviously typing up the dictation that the solicitors were doing, letters to the other side, briefs to counsel, that kind of thing. And for me, it was like listening to a podcast. I wasn't a trained typist, so I wasn't kind of blindly typing away. I was invested.
Yes.
I became familiar with the cases. I wanted to know what happened next. So, did they accept that offer? What are we going? And I was just really involved in it.
Okay.
And I kind of, over the space of 2 years, they started letting me do a few, paralegaling tasks. And then I started to handle low-level cases, kind of pre-action disclosure applications, infant approval hearings. There were a lot more of them back then, pre-action disclosure applications. It was before the fixed costs regime, and it was quite a good money stream for the claimant solicitors. And that was basically how I became a fee earner within the insurance department. And I've stuck with insurance ever since.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. How you sort of, as you say, struck by that phrase that you were invested in what was happening rather than just it going from your ear to the typewriter and out again.
My boss at the time always said I wasn't a very good secretary because I wasn't a trained typist, so I took a lot. I was too interested in what was going on.
Yeah. So you're now a partner. So
I am.
From a trainee junior secretary.
So
how did that happen, and how long?
Yeah. So I started, I think I was paraleaguing by 2006. So that was 2 years into my Forbes career. And then I think in 2008, we're going back a few years now, but I think it was around 2008, I began my Silex journey. I knew I wasn't going to go down the solicitor route because even though I had a degree, it would have involved doing the LPC. And the LPC and also a conversion cost, and so it was going to be one, very expensive to do that route.
Yes.
And two, I was working full time. I'd got used to it. I'd got used to the salary. I'd moved out of home by that point. I'd bought a house, so I had a mortgage to pay. So it just wasn't a viable route for me. Whereas Forbes offered to pay for my IELTS qualification. So this involved going to college every Wednesday night. So I still worked full time during the day. And so every Wednesday night for 4 hours for 4 years, I intern time. I went to college. So I did level 3 Silex or IELTS, and then I did level 6 IELTS. Passed. I had exams at the end of every 6 months. Passed all my exams. In short, I did it in the quickest time possible. So it took me 4 years. So that took us to 2012. I then applied for fast track qualification to fellowship. Normally, you do a 2-year equivalent to a training contract.
Okay.
So kind of 2 years on the job. And I applied for fast track qualification based on, one of the better phrase, time served. Sounds like I'm in prison. And I was successful. So I qualified as a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives in December 2012. And then, forgive me if I can't remember exact dates, but the next, I think approximately 3 years later, I was promoted to associate. And that was back in the days where it was, you didn't really apply for promotion. You were approached and they said, we think, you deserve to be an associate now. A few years later, Forbes introduced an internal promotion procedure where you would apply for promotion, and they introduced the role of senior associate, which was a new role to Forbes. And I applied, and I was pleased to say I was successful the first time I applied for that. And then, so that would have been 2020, I believe. And then this year, the 20th year, it felt right. And I applied for partnership, and obviously I'm here having this meeting with you. So I'm pleased to say I was successful.
So self-evidently it was successful. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant news. I mean, partnership is often, perceived as the pinnacle of a career in law, not least in insurance law. So therefore, a lot of people kind of aspire to that, and that's their goal. What advice would you give them specifically about how to get to the position you've got to?
Yeah, I would say stick at it. It's a long process. There's more to partnership than being a good lawyer. Of course, you need to be a good lawyer, but it's also, there's so many other skills such as client care skills and that kind of thing. And a lot of it is how the cookie crumbles in terms of your personal sector. I do a lot of housing work, and obviously I'm very busy at the moment, and so that that's helped in that I've been able to show significant revenue and into the firm, etc. I knew the type of partner I wanted to be. I've obviously worked with a lot of different partners, and the majority of those, I looked up to and admired, but there were also partners who are no longer here, I should add, within Forbes that I thought, that wouldn't be my style. Don't take, I'd also say take criticism positively. I considered applying for partnership a couple of years ago, and as part of our procedure, you have to get the agreement, no, not the agreement, but the support of your head of department. They add to your application, and I approached him and said, "What do you think if I go for partnership?" And he was honest with me and said he didn't think the time was right. And I took that on the chin, absolutely. He knew best. He was already a partner. He knew what it takes to be a partner. Yes. And I didn't take that as a negative. And I know some people would and did, and left the firm.
Yeah.
And so I just think,
stick at it.
Take advice and stick at it, and
yes,
the time will be right. As cliched as that sounds, your time will come.
Yes. Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, you've obviously put a huge amount of work and effort and thought into getting where you got to. And I think it's a fantastic story as to, the way your career's developed. But there must be a downside to being a partner, isn't there? I mean, what would you say are the disadvantages of being a partner?
I definitely feel a lot more responsibility, and for other people, I now feel that other people's jobs are not directly reliant on me, but I no longer just sit here and have work given to me. I have to go out and help the partnership bring the work in. And if I don't bring the work in, then there's no work to be done, and there's no jobs for people if there's no work. So I definitely feel a greater sense of responsibility. There's a lot more admin. It's you actually do less law. And again, my head of department said this to me. He said, "You'll do less. You'll do not be a lawyer as much when you're a partner. There's a lot more kind of paperwork to do, and there's a lot more meetings to attend, and that kind of thing. And people tend to pest is not the right word, but people ask you a lot. They want to know what's going on. Are we getting a pay rise this year? And there's all that kind of thing.
Yes, because you're now seen as a important part of the senior management team. As you say, not just of the processes of law, but the processes of running a successful business.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a really interesting observation, that you probably do less law and more, business running, client retention, client acquisition. Okay, that's really, really interesting. So, got to ask, because everybody talks about AI all the time, how do you see AI affecting your role as a partner?
I think it's going to be a long time before AI replaces the human lawyer or the human partner. I think we should embrace it. I think it definitely has its place. I mean, AI is already in use. If you look at a low level case management systems, we've all used the quantum tools. I'm not saying they're very good, but we've used the quantum tools where you put all the details from the medical report and it spits out the figure at you. So we're all already using AI at a low level. But I absolutely think there's a place for it, but you're never going to replace that personal touch. And as I said earlier on in our conversation, there's more to being a good lawyer or a good partner than the law. Nothing will replace a human conversation, a human touch.
Yes.
And I hope it won't be in my career that we'll see AI replaces. But I definitely think that there's a place for it.
And I guess as a partner, it's sort of even more incumbent on you to find that place that fits well with your firm's culture and your firm's approach. So that speaks to an example of that additional responsibility and strategic thinking that partners need to have. So okay, that's really interesting stuff. Thank you. So just to wrap up, cliche interview question, but if there was one thing that you wished you had known when you were at school, what is it?
It's It's a tricky question, that, because I think that almost infers that you regret something, that you wish you could have done something differently, and I don't, because I think every step of I could have bypassed the whole university thing. I didn't need a degree to do my IELTS, so I could have skipped the debt, but I don't regret the life experience of university. I met friends for life there. It taught me basic client care skills. You go to a city that you don't know anyone, and you have to make it on your own. Just as I don't regret going to Australia for a year and racking up thousands of pounds worth of debt. So I think I might tell my younger self to worry less about what people think, but again, I'm happy where I am now, and I think everything does happen for a reason, and what will be will be.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. I mean, as you say, if you're happy with where you are now, what's the point of having any regrets? Because everything that you did has brought you to where you are now, which is clearly a great place. So that's fantastic. And just as a slight comment, somebody said to me the other day, said, what people think of you is actually none of your business. Isn't that great?
It's very true.
Why worry about it? None of your business, really. So anyway, sorry. Thank you, Sarah. That's been really, really interesting. I'm sure that people that watch this will find it informative and helpful, and very, very listenable, which is obviously one of the primary things we try to achieve. So thank you very much for your time.
No, you're welcome.
Sarah's contact details will be at the end of this. You'll also find 2 QR codes. So if you want to follow Foyle on LinkedIn or Twitter, you can follow us there as well. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you.